uncanny collections, digital artist, post-colonialism, metaverse moonwalker. These are some of the words that describe the work and the personality of our artist today, Carla Gannis. Welcome very much for this interview for 4ARTechnologies.
Thank you so much, Paulina. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. And we're very happy for our most recent collaboration with Palm and in the 4Art marketplace, the Digital Baroque, and we will be talking a little bit about it. So briefly, Carla, let's try to make this very concise, but still that people can get to know you a little bit in these videos, in this series of videos. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself.
Sure. So I am a digital artist, a transmedia artist. I have many different kind of definitions for what I do, but primarily, I'm a visual artist. I actually trained and have 2 degrees in painting. And so a lot of my early experiences learning about art history, applying pigments to canvas are still present in the work that I produce today. Although I work with emerging technologies today, I explore extended reality spaces, virtual reality, and then I also am very interested in taking a theme or concept and exploring it or exporting that file, so to speak, across multiple platforms so that it resonates as both a physical instantiation of an idea, but also a virtual instantiation or something that can exist in a metaverse.
Yeah, I mean, now you already talk a bit about techniques and already a bit of how the work is. I mean, is it something else that you would need to tell us about the inspiration of your work that you haven't mentioned now? I mean, I think you were more into the technical part of it. Inspiration-wise, where do you get this?
Yes. So I come from the southern part of the United States, and I come from a really small town. My family, they're Appalachian, which is a particular kind of group of people who live in a certain area where storytelling is essential. And so I think that has been something that's pervasive throughout my art career and my practice is really, it's rooted in stories. I started as somebody who was fascinated by the Gothic South of the United States. And now I describe my practice as a kind of exploration of the Gothic internet, of internet semiotics and these languages that we use today, and how I can find ways to mash them up with art historical or literary or feminist historical references and contexts, and to bring kind of new ways of looking at the semiotics, at the languages we use today in the context of historical gaze, but also a future gaze. And that is really critical to me.
Yes, and I think we can see that. I mean, when we look at your portfolio, when we visit your website, look at some of the exhibitions, of course, we see these narratives one way or another.
Well, I have exhibited my work in many different contexts, particularly because I'm an artist working on the internet, I'm working with digital technologies, and one exhibition, or perhaps you wouldn't even call it an exhibition, an event that I participated in 2018. So it's not so recent, but it's still a particularly fond moment for me, was when I was able to take over Times Square in New York City. And the event is called Midnight Moment. And so they select an artist each month. And for 3 minutes at midnight, that artist's work gets to take over all the advertising screens of Times Square. And so, one, that's a lot of ad revenue, and they're giving it to an artist. So that was particularly special to me and felt momentous. But also the idea of showing my work in that kind of public context where 3/4 of the people, maybe I should say 7/8 of the people, don't even know it's art. They're there because it's Times Square. And I have lived in New York City going on now for like 26 years. I've been here for a long time, right? But I don't travel up to Times Square that often. But when my work was there, I was traveling there every night, and I was like a fly on the wall. And it would be amazing when the work launched, and then people would look up and they, particularly because the work was quite Baroque, and it was a work that was exploring, as I continue to do with the work that I've done for 4Art as well, it was exploring a Baroque language through a digital media lens. And so people would stop and they'd look up and scratch their head like, oh, that's not an advertisement. What is that? And, kind of that locality, it was a very exciting experience. And likewise, I'll choose another more, it's not an unusual because it was in the context of a museum, but it was a different kind of platforming of art. And so that was when I participated in a Whitney Museum project. And again, I built one of my avatars. These are all from the project after Arcimboldo. So they're inspired by the 16th century painter Arcimboldo, who made these uncanny portraits of humans, but they were made up or comprised of fruits and vegetables and books and all of these things. And I used the language of emoji to create my characters or my avatars. And so I was commissioned by the Whitney Museum to take over their website for I think it was 8 months. It was for quite a substantial amount of time. And so every morning at sunrise and at sunset in the evening, my avatar, and her name was Lady Ava Interface, would take over the Whitney Museum site, every page. And she represented she was a reference to Ada Lovelace, the first computer programmer, a woman from the 1860s. So yay. And then also, though, she represented an embodiment of digital assistants. And so we're very familiar with Siri and Alexa, and they're always kind of performing tasks for us, very perfunctory, and they're not embodied. We just hear this voice. And so I wanted to embody this digital assistant, but I also wanted her to subvert our expectations of digital assistants, particularly female digital assistants. So instead of giving you, what your calendar is for the day, she had little prompts for you like water your plants with your tears, more poetic. And so to remind us that our relationship to digital technologies don't all have to be perfunctory or business oriented. And as an artist exploring this domain for over 20 years, it is really poetic to me.
Very nice. Yeah, great. And very different platforms. Really cool. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing that. And how then you came into the world of NFT?
Yes. So I, like many artists, have been working, in the digital domain for quite some time. And a couple of years ago, also, I'm an educator. So I teach currently at NYU, and I'm in the Integrated Design and Media program in a School of Engineering, actually. But we're the program where you can take engineering concepts and make art and design out of them. And that's very exciting. And so a few years ago, I actually invited speakers to come in and talk about the blockchain. And I was trying to unpack it myself. And I made some work, because I'm a storyteller, about Bitcoin and blockchain, but I hadn't actually participated on the framework. I was just, kind of examining it from a research perspective or a storytelling perspective as an artist. And so then, of course, last year when, it really became ubiquitous, at least for digital art circles first, and now it's something that's just, worldwide. There are very few people I know who don't or aren't familiar with NFTs now. And so, of course, as somebody who's always been an early-ish, I'll say, adopter of emerging technologies or new platforms, I felt that it was incumbent upon me to begin to participate. And so I first dove in, well, there are a couple of different experiences, but one that was particularly fascinating to me, just in the way that we work together as artists, was Casey Reis's Feral File. And so that was something, we started talking about it in January of 2020. And then I think I might be wrong in the dates. It's all, blurry because there's so much activity now, but I think it was around March when we launched this show on Feral File. And there were many discussions between the artists. And so that was something that was really exciting, that we were having critical conversations as we were negotiating and finding our footing in this space. Another really crucial show was Pieces of Me, organized by a transfer gallery, Kalani Nicole and Wade Wallerstein. And again, what was kind of fascinating about that, because it was still early days, was that artists were given the latitude to decide how much they wanted to participate in this. So each artist set different kind of conditions for how their work was represented in this platform that was exploring what NFTs are and how they're distributed, et cetera. So those are some of the early kind of events that I participated in.
Carla Gannis, very successful digital artist, and recently was part of our Digital Baroque exhibition in the recently launched, not so recent, but okay, more or less recent, 4ART Marketplace with the Piporama, Platonic Dialogues. Really cool. And we had this combination of some physical assets, but also this exploration in these virtual spaces, as you already explained before. May we ask you at what price your NFT Plus fetch from our marketplace?
Sure. So it was 4.9 ETH, and that was very exciting. Yes.
Cool. I mean, yeah, I was always very happy with the curation. Of course, you can still find it if you visit 4Art Marketplace and Digital Baroque. We're going to leave the link here, of course. But tell us what's coming. What is the future now? What are your plans with NFTs?
Sure. So I just started working with Droplet, and they're based out of Australia. And so with one of my NFTs, I just was participating in this Melbourne art fair, and then they just dropped the work on their platform. And then upcoming, I'm going to be doing a show with female identified artists and LGBTQIA artists it's based in LA. Again, though, most of these NFT shows now are worldwide, and that is going to be featured on Artsy, and that will be premiering during Women's History Month. And so that's very exciting. That'll be coming up in March. And then, as I tend to do, I'm working in the NFT marketplace, but I do have a museum show coming up at Photografski in Estonia. And so I'm continuing to work on museum shows, gallery shows, and then also working in the NFT marketplace.
Great. Yes, of course, Carla, we expect to see a lot of you also in 4Art Marketplace, more of you, hopefully. So our collectors are also finding your interesting work there. Okay, one other question. Do you agree that NFTs should be simpler with the minting process, with how you sell them? How is your experience? I mean, because of course now you basically know most of the platforms. And yeah, do you think it should be simpler? What is your take on it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I have to say, as an artist, I have more fun and I'm just more inclined to be making the work, right? And so now with this new transaction process and keeping track of wallets, and that, you know, on one platform, you need to use one kind of wallet, there's a different currency, all of these different currencies, I can attest to that being kind of mind-boggling. And if anything, sometimes, you know, it makes me anxious, and it's something that I have talked with other artists about, and I think we share that. And so I think there are ways, and I can't be the person to do it, but engineers and computer scientists who could streamline some of these processes. I mean, I think that's something 4Art has actually been revolutionary in terms of, one, also providing the system where physical objects can be linked and tied to digital files. And I think that that's something that's really important to artists who work with hybrid, you know, practices. And so I am for a simplification of the system, indeed.
Definitely, yes. And how was your experience working with us with 4ARTechnologies?
Oh my gosh, I had so much fun. Rachel and Petra and Kai, everyone was so professional and just so attentive to our needs. You know, I was friends with quite a few of the other artists who were participating in this show. And so when we'd have conversations, we were just like, Rachel and Petra are just great. And then Kai, getting to talk to him about, you know, the platform and building out the space. Because as you can tell, the way I launched into this interview, I was talking tech. So I love tech too. But then with Petra, you know, also from, you know, the perspective of being a curator and an art historian, you know, another side of me is really deep into those kind of critical reflections on why we make art, you know, and it was something that I felt like I could really talk to Petra about, and that she got it. And so that's always a great experience when you feel like the people that you're working with, the people who are curating your work, but also, you know, organizing, you know, its presentation, that they get what you're doing. And I totally felt that way throughout the entire process.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you so much. And you said it right. I think here at 4ARTechnologies, 4Art app is trying to make all these processes simpler. Just as you pointed out, it's been already a few years where we started working with making and protecting analog work into a digital galleries and having the exhibition. And of course, now with NFTs, it's an extra place, if you will, where you also, in the easiest way, because this is what we think, you know, you're a very digital artist and also into tech, that you're even you think like, oh my God, sometimes could be too much. So I think for us, it's super important to have this process as simple as possible, where you click a few buttons and already, without any knowledge of currencies, can already start minting and doing your NFT plus in our platform, and then offer it really quickly in the marketplace. So I'm happy to hear it was good also for you.
For sure.
Thank you, Carla. Would you like to say something else for our art lovers here in 4Art app and 4Art exhibition?
Well, I just want to say, if you're on 4Art and you're perusing, this is a really special experience. It's groundbreaking. And so I'm so happy to be involved and working with you all. And thank you so much for taking some time out today to get my perspective on all of this. Pleasure meeting you virtually.
Yay! Thank you, Carla. We'll be in touch, definitely. Success with everything that's coming. Keep educating the world with all your knowledge, bringing all these nice conversations. Yeah, of course, from the art, the digital, what's happening in the contemporary world. Success with everything. And 4ARTechnologies is your home too.
Thanks.